What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're back and discussing training camp for the Detroit Lions. Day 3 of fully padded practices are now in the books, and we got some interesting things to talk about. So let's get it started. Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here, and I'm excited to be back with training camp. Yesterday was an off day, so there was no training camp information, but we did have Dan Miller on the show. If you guys have not seen that, go check it out. So it was okay. But today we're back with training camp updates. And let me just say, I'm excited. And there's some really good information that I have to give to you guys. There could be a part 2 to this. If there is, you guys will know because I'll upload another video, so that will kind of tell you there's a part 2. But I don't know if there will be. However, I do have some really good information here that I think you guys will be very interested to hear. And also, there's been a lot of cool news coming out recently, so we may have multiple videos come out today. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, let's hop right into this day 3 of fully padded practices at training camp. Now, we're going to start off with basically our participation report. I'll say it like that. I don't want to say injury list because it doesn't necessarily mean you're injured or you're hurt because you didn't practice. It could be like Kerryon Johnson, where he basically had a scheduled off day on Tuesday because Wednesday was also an off day, so they're trying to maximize that time. Especially with guys you've already seen on the field, you might as well give them a little bit of rest. Make sure they're fully healthy going into the season, especially those guys that can play a big role. So, it doesn't necessarily mean they're hurt. It just could mean they didn't participate today. So we're going to say it like that. Let's look at the participation report. The first guy is Kerryon Johnson, who I just brought up. Kerryon Johnson was a full participant today. He was good to go. We know he's been wearing that right knee brace, but he was 100% full go today. So that's good news. That is encouraging news for Kerryon Johnson for sure. After the 2 days off, he's back at it. He has some nice routes. So it's good to see Kerryon Johnson back out there making some plays, and good to see that he is looking pretty good on the field. Now, Bo Benshaw and Kevin Strong for the last couple of days have not been there. However, they are back today. They were back today in practice, Bo Benshaw and Kevin Strong. That's a great update. We didn't really know why. Matt Patricia really never told us why, but they are back, so that's great. Also, keeping with that, Matt Sokol is back as well, but he's wearing one of those red vests, basically saying, hey, please don't hit me because I don't want to be hit right now. Matt Sokol is back, though, so that's great. That is our tight end. And Victor Bolden was doing some practice off to the side. So it doesn't necessarily mean he was hurt. He was just practicing off to the side. We know we brought back Chris Lacey, so if he is hurt, then that could be a reason why. Either way, that's kind of the participation report. Now let's talk about how these players played today. The first thing is this, Jason Cabinda, probably some crazy information that you weren't expecting to get, but I'm going to give it to you. Jason Cabinda, the Detroit Lions linebacker. And let me just say, I don't know exactly, remember who this exactly is, but shout out to you for asking about updates on Jason Cabinda. Haven't got tons of them. However, here is one. Jason Cabinda played the full day today at fullback, not linebacker, fullback. Now, he's done this before. This is not something brand new for him, but it's not his main position. You think of Jason Cabinda as a linebacker, and he's got some size as well. He's 6'1", 243 pounds. And let me just say, I've said it before, I don't know if we're going to keep any fullbacks, basically Luke Sellers or Nick Bawden. Luke Sellers today was released. He could be brought back. I don't know. We'll see. But also Nick Bawden, I don't know if he's going to make the team, man. I have a feeling that he could be one of those surprise cuts this year. Now we see Jason Cabinda getting some reps at fullback. If he could take over that role, the Lions could be in a position where they could keep basically a linebacker and a fullback for one spot. That's great for the Lions. And I think you already have depth there with Isaac Nauta. If you want to keep Hunter Bryant, he can play that position as well. If you keep Bo Scarborough, he can play that position. So I think the Lions have depth to the point where they may not keep Nick Bawden for the 2020 NFL season, which for Jason Cabinda could be good for him because that could be his role. And that would be great for him because he's probably going to be a depth guy as a linebacker anyways. We kind of did the same thing before. If you guys can remember with Nick Bellore, he was a linebacker but also played fullback. So just keep an eye on that. That's some big news. That's probably the biggest news we have of the day. But we also have some very good news, and that comes with some of the rookies. So we'll talk about that. But before we get into the rookies, we got to talk about the GOAT himself, Matthew Stafford. Okay, I actually got a big fat head of Stafford there. I got pictures all around. Matthew Stafford had an incredible day. Probably the best day that Matthew Stafford's had, at least from what I've heard by reports. Matthew Stafford was great today. And honestly, are we even shocked? I mean, let's be honest. We saw Warren Sharp come out with an article that said that he was basically Jameis Winston last season without the interceptions. That's pretty much a good way to sum it up because I think the only team that had more passing yards per game when Matthew Stafford was healthy was the Buccaneers with 319. So, hey, Jameis Winston was doing really well. He was throwing a lot of touchdowns, putting up a lot of yards. He was also putting up a lot of interceptions. I would say that's a pretty good way to describe it. Matthew Stafford was Winston without the picks. So basically, he's Winston without the bad plays. That's pretty darn good. I'm not going to lie. That's pretty good. That's some high praise. So Matthew Stafford had a great day today. Let's talk that. There may not even been a ball that hit the ground when Matthew Stafford was throwing the football today. I mean, he was just that precise. We do know that he did throw a pick to Jelani Tavai earlier in training camp. Tavai has been really improving on those short routes. I really like what I'm seeing from Jelani Tavai. But Matthew Stafford, man, he was incredible today in 11 on 11s and 7 on 7s, throwing some dots and just taking shots. There was no, hold back. Matthew Stafford has continued to take shots just like he did last season. Him to Marvin Jones Jr. has looked really good, and TJ Hockenson as well. He said he wasn't 100%. The report is he looked like he was 100% today as he was playing very well. Matthew Stafford throwing some dots. Stafford actually tested our guy Jeffrey Okudah to Marvin Jones, and apparently Matthew Stafford and Jones won that matchup. But Stafford has been on fire. I know he has thrown at least one pick to Jelani Tavai, but at least it's not as bad as Jarrett Stidham. Apparently Jarrett Stidham has thrown 7 picks in 3 days. That's not good. I'm sorry, Paige. That's not good. I'm just going to say it. Well, hey, this is the time to throw the picks, though. So Matthew Stafford has been clicking, which is awesome. We know he's put in the work this offseason, right? He's not been afraid to say, hey, me and you, we're going to go put in some work. Swift, get over here. Wide receivers, get over here. We're putting in work this offseason. I don't care if it's a weird offseason. We also, in the DB room, heard Kenny Golladay talk about Matthew Stafford, and he said he has that dog in him. I really understand why he is, and he's been really good so far through training camp. So that's awesome. That's good news to hear about Matthew Stafford. Like I said, Hockenson looks like he's 100%. Marvin Jones Jr. had a great day today as well. This is some good news about our rookie, Jeffrey Okudah. We said Jeffrey Okudah has, I guess you could say, struggled a little bit to this point. I can't remember who it was, but someone thought of, hey, maybe it's a shoot. I think it was Scott. Scott brought up maybe if that's, equipment issue, things like that. It could have been. I don't know. I heard he was struggling throughout practice. But today was a bounce back day for Jeffrey Okudah. Sure, he wasn't perfect, right? He didn't make any crazy big plays, but he was a lot tighter in coverage. He was very good in transition. He was a lot closer to the football, and he didn't slip today, so that's good. No slips today for Jeffrey Okudah. And like I said, he was targeted by Marvin Jones, so getting some rep against Marvin Jones Jr., that's good. That's a good look. So Jeffrey Okudah bounced back a little bit after 2 days off. That probably was good for him, honestly, just to kind of recoup, get back out there, and Jeffrey Okudah looked much better today. So that's awesome, okay? I wasn't really concerned about Jeffrey Okudah ever. I was never really concerned about Jeffrey Okudah because I know what this guy could do in college. All right, I know it's early. Big hit apparently on a running back with his shoulder, and we know Jeffrey Okudah can help in the run game. He's not the best tackler, right? He wasn't the best tackler in the draft out of that cornerback spot. He was up there, not the best. I don't think he's Rashawn Melvin when it comes to tackling, but it is something that he can do. It's not something that he shies away from, and that's a big reason that Matt Patricia brought him in. And you know he's going to be making Jeffrey Okudah make some hits because he wants his guys to be able to hit. So it's good to hear from Jeffrey Okudah that he has bounced back. He's had a really good day today in day number 3. Hunter Bryant. A lot of people have asked about Hunter Bryant as well. My last update was that Hunter Bryant had a nice big crossing route over the field and a good big catch and run, and that's kind of where we expect Hunter Bryant to be successful. He's been looking really good as a receiver for the Lions because he has that versatility to play both and not look out of position. I mean, you can put him at receiver and it won't look weird because he has athleticism and skill. But where he is struggling is blocking. The report was this: hey, if this guy can figure out how to block a little bit, he's probably going to make the team because he has such a great ability when it comes to playing as a receiver. We know this. We know that is really what jumps off the screen for you when you watch it. It's that rumble, it's that blocking that definitely concerns me. He struggled with it so far in training camp. He just needs to continue to work on that. I mean, that is his weak spot, that and injuries. But if he's on the field, if he's available to play, we know that's his biggest concern is blocking. And if he can start to clean that up, I don't see a reason why he doesn't make the team, and that's why I think there's some concern with whether or not Nick Bawden will make the team, because I could see a guy like Isaac Nauta, now Jason Cavanaugh taking over that fullback role to open up another spot. So that's just a little look. That's just my idea. I mean, that may not be true. That may not actually happen. That's just kind of how I'm looking at things right now. Going down to the offensive line, Taylor Decker has had once again another good day against Trey Flowers. Taylor Decker, that's 2 good days, back-to-back days, playing well against Trey Flowers, having some good reps, not getting burnt by Trey Flowers, anything like that. We know Flowers can get pressure. We know that. We've seen this guy on film. But Taylor Decker isn't a must prove it. I mean, Taylor Decker has to prove it this year in practice and in games if he wants that extension. And so far, he's been off to a pretty hot start. I believe in Taylor Decker. I have a feeling that he may get that extension. But we know the pressure is on, okay? The pressure is on like never before for Taylor Decker to perform. So hopefully he does that this season, and so far in practice, he's shown us that he has. Moving to the other side of the offensive line, Big V against Romeo Okwara. Now, Big V, according to Matt Patricia, shocked some people with his strength. Well, Romeo Okwara beat him in 1 rep today, had another good one, but he beat him in 1 pass rushing rep, which is great from Romeo Okwara. He's going to be a big key to this pass rush, but it's big for a guy like Romeo Okwara to get back to the quarterback. We know in 2018 had a big year, a little bit lower in 2019, but with some help on that defensive line, he looked really good. Speaking of getting pressure, apparently most of the pressure that we saw today did come from blitzing, but we did see Nick Williams, Romeo Okwara flash a little bit. So keep an eye out for those guys, but a lot of it came from blitzing, and honestly, that doesn't shock me. We don't have premier elite pass rushers. Even in the teams that do, a lot of times it still does take a little bit for those guys to get to quarterback. We've ran through the numbers, things like that with 49ers, teams like that. For the Lions, I think it will come from blitzing a lot of times. And I think that's what you see with Matt Patricia, and that's how he's done things. A lot of times it's timely blitzes that makes plays. He's not going to blitz the most in the league, but it's timely, right? He's really good at timing a blitz when you're not really expecting it. You never know when it's coming, and it doesn't come often, but when it does come, I see it's a very successful. I'd like to know what the success rate is for Matt Patricia and his blitzes because they seem to be pretty darn successful. Even last year when he decides to bring them. I think they could bring them a little bit more next year, only 18%, which was a little bit more in 2018. I could see that jump into the mid-20s next year. I could see that with more confidence in that back end where you have spent a lot of resources. So I would say keeping an eye out for that for the season. The Lions could be blitzing a lot more. I wish we had preseason so we could see that. They probably wouldn't do that too much preseason anyways. But I'm excited to see what Matt Patricia's philosophy is defensively. Also, Deshaun Hand, inside punch as a defensive lineman. To me, when I did that video on Deshaun Hand, that was the biggest weakness to me was his pass rushing moves. His pass rushing moves, his pass rushing counter moves. That was the biggest weakness. This guy can stop the run when he's healthy, also injuries. But when he's on the field, he's very good against the run. He has a great motor and he never stopped chasing the football. But I felt like he could, I even said that in my video, I felt like if he could, maybe establish more of a rip move or something inside or a counter attack, he'd be much better as a player, and that could take him to a completely another level. And what we saw from him as a rookie in the league, if you put him on another level, he's going to be very dominant. So I think if he improves that and adds some more pass rushing abilities to his game, Deshaun Hand could be someone to watch out for. I'm just saying, hey, a healthy hand with flowers, ooh, snap. We haven't seen that before. Those are the updates I have as of now. There may be a part 2. We'll have to wait and see. Appreciate all of you guys for stopping in. Thank you, Prop, for watching, and I'm out.